The invitation that wasn't meant for her. They said it was just a royal charity gala, they said the sudden blackout was a power failure, but people who were there still whispered the same sentence. That was the night the vampire king chose the girl nobody could see. And it didn't happen the way fairy tales do. It didn't happen with glass slippers or love at first sight. It happened with cruelty, with jealousy, and with one sister's favorite sentence. No one will notice you. In the Hartwell mansion, that sentence was not an insult, it was a rule. Elara Hartwell stood in the kitchen under cold white lights, stirring tea that had gone bitter because she forgot the sugar again. She always forgot the sugar when her thoughts were too loud. Her hands were small and shaky from a long day working at the old city archive, where she cleaned fragile papers no one cared about. She wasn't lazy, she wasn't stupid, she wasn't weak inside. But in her own home, she had been trained to move like a shadow. On the marble island sat an invitation that looked expensive enough to buy a small house, thick cream paper, black ink, and a seal made of silver wax shaped like a crown. The Night Vale Foundation requests the honor of your presence at the winter solstice masquerade. Elara stared at it like it was a threat because in their world it was. A sharp voice cut through the room, "Don't touch it." Elara's hand jerked back like the paper was hot. Her older sister, Serafina, walked in like she owned the air itself. She was tall, bright, perfect, with hair like polished gold and a smile that looked sweet until you got close enough to feel how cold it was. Even her footsteps sounded expensive. Serafina picked up the invitation with 2 fingers, inspected it like Elara had dirt on her skin, then smirked. "This isn't for you obviously." Elara swallowed. "I was only moving it away from the sink." Serafina laughed softly. "You say that like you matter." Elara's chest tightened but she kept her voice calm. "Who's hosting it?" Serafina's eyes glittered because she loved saying this name, King Valerius Nightborn. Even the walls seemed to go quiet. Everyone knew the name. King Valerius wasn't a normal king, he wasn't human, he wasn't even like the other vampires that hid in rich neighborhoods and pretended to be CEOs. Valerius Nightborn was the kind of vampire old families feared and admired at the same time, the kind that didn't beg society for a seat. Society built the table around him. And he never attended public events, not really. So why host a gala now? Serafina leaned closer to Elara, letting her perfume flood the space, sweet and heavy like flowers left too long in water. Tonight, he will choose a companion for the midnight waltz, one woman, one spotlight, one rumor that becomes a marriage proposal by morning. Elara tried to stay neutral. People say he doesn't take brides. Serafina's smile sharpened. People say many things because they don't understand power. He will take a bride when he finds someone worthy. Her gaze dropped to Elara's plain sweater, Elara's ink-stained fingers, Elara's quiet posture. Then Serafina whispered, soft enough to sound kind, "Not you, Elara." Elara forced herself to breathe. "I never asked to go." "Good," Serafina said, satisfied, "because you're not meant for places like that." She turned, and with a casual cruelty that felt practiced, she added, "Even if you walked into that ballroom, no one would notice you, your background noise, you always have been." Elara held her mug tighter, the heat burning her palm. She wanted to shout, to say something sharp, to break the spell her family had put on her life. But her throat locked, like it always did when she tried to defend herself. That night, the mansion became a machine built to create Serafina. Stylists arrived, jewelers arrived, designers arrived, their mother floated through the halls like a queen preparing a princess for a coronation. Elara stayed in her small room at the far end of the house, the one that used to be a storage office. The window didn't face the city, it faced a narrow wall. She sat on the bed with an old book open in her lap, but the words didn't enter her brain, her mind kept repeating the same sentence. "No one will notice you." Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Rowan, the only friend who spoke to her like she was real. He worked at the archive with her, and he never laughed when she got excited about old languages and forgotten histories. Rowan's message was short, but it punched through her fog. "Elara, I found something wrong." A donation box came in from a Nightborn estate. There's a journal with a crest. The handwriting matches a signature from last week. But the journal is dated 1720? Please come now. Elara's heart beat harder. She typed back, "That's impossible." Rowan replied instantly, "Then explain it to me because I can't." Elara stared at her door. Her family was about to leave for the gala. If she stepped out now, she would be stopped, questioned, mocked, ordered back to her room. So she waited, she listened to laughter, heels, perfume, the clink of jewelry, then the main door closed with a heavy final sound. Silence came, thick and lonely. Elara stood up and grabbed her coat, a simple wool coat that had seen too many winters. She walked toward the front hall. That's when she saw it. The invitation lay on the floor near the staircase, as if it had fallen from Serafina's perfect hands during her dramatic exit. Elara stared at it, breathing slowly. Rowan was at the archive. The gala was only a few streets away. She bent down and picked up the invitation. The seal felt cold against her thumb. A voice in her head sounded exactly like Serafina. No one will notice you. Elara didn't plan to go. She didn't own a gown, she didn't have makeup artists, she didn't have diamonds, she didn't have confidence. But something else rose inside her, something quiet and stubborn. If nobody noticed her, then nobody would stop her. Elara walked into Serafina's dressing room. It looked like a storm had hit it. Dresses hung like defeated flags, shoes were thrown near the vanity, and on the bed was a rejected gown. Not glittery, not loud, not designed to scream for attention. It was black velvet, simple and elegant, with long sleeves and a smooth silhouette that looked like midnight turned into fabric. It was the kind of dress that didn't beg to be seen, it demanded patience. Elara's hands trembled as she changed. She brushed her hair out and let it fall. She didn't know how to sculpt her face with makeup like Serafina, so she did something honest instead. She cleaned her skin, applied soft color to her lips, and darkened her lashes. When she looked in the mirror, she didn't see Serafina. She saw someone unfamiliar, someone quiet but not empty, someone who looked like she belonged to a secret. Elara whispered, "Rowan can wait 10 minutes." Then she picked up the invitation and walked out into the cold night. The streets near the Night Vale Palace Hotel glowed with luxury. Cameras flashed like lightning, limousines lined the curb, rich humans and hidden vampires stepped out wearing masks that made them look like beautiful predators. Elara stood across the street, suddenly aware of every heartbeat in her body. She almost turned back. Then she saw her family, her mother smiling wide for cameras, her father proud, Serafina shining in silver like the moon wanted to copy her. And not one of them looked around. Not one of them noticed Elara wasn't home. A sharp ache moved through Elara's chest. Not just sadness but anger, clean and cold. She crossed the street, holding her chin steady. At the entrance, a guard stopped her. His eyes flicked over her dress, her posture, the way she tried not to look scared. "Invitation," he said. Elara handed it over. He scanned it once, then stepped aside. "Hartwell family, you're late." "I got lost," Elara lied softly because the truth would sound too small. The guard waved her in. The ballroom hit her like a wave, warmth, perfume, champagne, music. It was a world built for people who never doubted they deserved to exist. Black silk draped from the ceiling like a dark sky. Crystals hung like frozen stars. The orchestra played a waltz that sounded too beautiful to be safe. Elara stayed at the edges, holding a glass of water as if it was armor. She watched Serafina immediately move toward the center of attention, laughing too loudly, turning her body like a promise. Elara whispered to herself, "Just 5 minutes, then I go to Rowan." That's when a voice spoke behind her, close enough to send a strange chill up her spine. "Pathetic, isn't it?" Elara turned, and for one breath her brain forgot how to work. The man standing there was taller than anyone around him. He wore a perfectly fitted black suit, his hair dark, his face pale and sharp like carved stone. But it was his eyes that made the room fade. They were not soft, they were not warm. They looked like storm metal, like the sky right before lightning. He watched Elara like he had been waiting for her, not in a romantic way but in a dangerous way, the way hunters wait for something rare. Elara's mouth opened, but no sound came out at first. The man's gaze flicked toward the dance floor where Serafina spun and laughed like she was already wearing a crown. "The hunger," he said calmly, "it has a scent." Elara blinked. "That's my sister." The man's lips curved slightly, not friendly but amused. "My condolences." Elara should have defended Serafina, she should have been offended. But a laugh escaped her, small and surprised, like her own soul couldn't believe it happened. She covered her mouth, eyes wide. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean." "Why apologize for honesty?" the man said, stepping a little closer. The air around him felt colder, like the room itself respected his presence. "You don't belong with them." Elara's chest tightened. "I'm a Hartwell." "Names," he said, dismissive, "are labels humans use so they don't have to look deeper." He leaned in slightly, voice lowering. "You don't smell like them." Elara swallowed. "What do I smell like?" His gaze moved over her face, not greedy, not rude, but intense, like he was reading a secret written in her skin. "You smell like someone who has learned how to disappear," he said, "and I am very good at finding what's hidden." Elara's heart hammered. "Who are you?" The man lifted his glass slightly. "Valerius?" Elara froze, her fingers tightened on her water glass. "Valerius Nightborn. The Vampire King. The host nobody ever saw." In that moment, it felt like the entire ballroom shifted, like a storm cloud had moved inside without permission. Elara whispered, "Everyone is looking for you." "They're looking for a story," Valerius replied. "Not for me." Before Elara could respond, the orchestra stopped, the lights dimmed, a spotlight struck the grand staircase that led to the center floor. A man with a microphone announced loudly, "Honored guests, tradition calls for the king's midnight waltz. His Majesty will choose one companion to open the night." A ripple of excitement spread like fire. Elara saw Serafina straighten instantly, eyes bright, smile ready. She looked like she believed the universe owed her this moment. Elara took a step back, panic rising. "You should go," she told Valerius quickly. "They're waiting." Valerius didn't move. "They're waiting for a fantasy," he said. "I prefer reality." He extended his hand, elegant and pale, and Elara felt something impossible. Not desire. Not love. But safety, strange and terrifying. Elara shook her head. "I can't, my sister will." Valerius's eyes darkened, and the air around him sharpened like a blade. "Let her try," he said softly. Then he looked directly into Elara's eyes and said the sentence that changed everything. "Tonight everyone will notice you." And before Elara could escape back into the shadows, the Vampire King guided her forward, toward the center, toward the spotlight, toward a room full of hungry eyes, toward the moment her sister would realize the world had chosen the wrong girl to ignore. They say the room went silent first, not a polite silence, not the kind you hear when a singer takes the stage. This was the kind of silence you hear when a predator enters a room and every creature suddenly remembers what fear feels like. Elara felt it before she saw it. The spotlight warmed her skin, the eyes of strangers pressed into her like weight. Her heart beat so hard she swore the crystal chandeliers could hear it. Her fingers trembled in Valerius Nightborn's hand. The Vampire King guided her forward, slow and unhurried, as if the entire ballroom belonged to him, as if the music was only playing because he allowed it. Elara's mind screamed, "Run!" But her legs didn't move the way panic wanted, they moved the way his calm commanded. Serafina stood near the front, frozen in her silver gown, her smile was still on her lips, but it looked painted now, like someone had forgotten to finish her face. Elara saw it clearly, the moment her sister realized the spotlight was not coming for her. And for the first time in Elara's life, she felt something strange and electric. She felt noticed. The announcer's voice tried to recover. "Your Majesty, we are honored, the midnight waltz as tradition." Valerius didn't look at him, he didn't need permission. He raised his hand slightly, two musicians in the orchestra stiffened like they'd been touched by invisible strings, then the waltz began again, smoother, deeper, slower. The sound wrapped around Elara like velvet. Valerius led her to the center of the floor, and the crowd parted, not politely but instinctively. Humans stepped back, vampires stepped back farther, because they could feel something in him that humans couldn't understand. A cold power. A quiet danger. A king who did not pretend to be gentle. Elara's breath shook. "I can't do this," she whispered. "I don't know how." Valerius's voice came low, only for her. "Yes you do." "I've never danced at a gala," Elara said, and her cheeks burned with humiliation, because even that truth felt like a confession of being less. Valerius's eyes didn't mock her, they didn't soften, but they didn't mock. He said, "Then you will dance like yourself, not like a trained puppet." Elara swallowed. "My sister will hate me." Valerius's mouth curved slightly. "Your sister already hates you, this changes nothing except that tonight the world sees it." That sentence struck Elara harder than any insult Serafina had ever thrown at her, because it wasn't cruel, it was factual, like the truth finally spoke out loud. Valerius placed one hand at her waist, not possessive, not improper, just steady, like he was anchoring a shaking ship. His other hand held hers. Elara's body wanted to stiffen, to shrink, to disappear again, but the music kept moving and his steps were clear, simple, firm. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. She followed. The first few turns were clumsy, Elara's heel caught, her breath hitched, and her eyes flicked around in terror. But Valerius didn't tighten his grip, he didn't scold, he leaned closer and said, "Look at me." Elara forced her gaze up. His eyes were storm gray and sharp, but there was something else there too, something like curiosity, like patience that didn't belong in monsters. "Do not search their faces," Valerius murmured. "They don't matter." Elara's throat tightened. "They do." Valerius's voice dropped. "Not compared to you." The words landed inside Elara like a new language she didn't know how to speak yet. Around them, whispers rose like smoke. "Who is she?" "She's not on the list." "That's the Hartwell family." "Isn't that the quiet one?" "I didn't know they had another daughter." "Why would His Majesty choose her?" Elara heard every word, because humiliation trained her ears to catch danger. Then she heard another whisper, colder, sharper. "That's not a human girl," a vampire woman murmured to her companion. "Look at how the king watches her, he only looks like that at things that matter." Elara's mouth went dry. She tried to focus on the steps, on the rhythm, on the warmth of Valerius's hand through her glove. But her eyes betrayed her, they flicked toward Serafina. Serafina was moving through the crowd, smiling too brightly, slicing through people with her confidence like a blade. She approached the edge of the dance floor and clapped loudly, too loudly, as if she could force applause into existence. "Your Majesty," Serafina called, voice sweet as sugar, "what an unexpected choice." The crowd leaned in hungry. Elara's stomach dropped. She knew that tone. That was the tone Serafina used right before she made someone cry. Valerius didn't stop dancing. He didn't even glance at Serafina. He simply guided Elara through another turn, calm and unbothered. Serafina smiled wider. "My sister is shy," she said. "She doesn't belong in spotlight, she's not trained for these circles." Elara's face heated, her heart pounded. It felt like being 13 again, trapped at the top of the stairs while Serafina performed her cruelty in front of guests. Serafina stepped closer to the edge. "She tends to wander into places she doesn't understand," she continued. "She's harmless, really, just." Valerius stopped. The orchestra stuttered into silence as if someone cut a thread. Valerius turned his head slowly and for the first time he looked at Serafina. The temperature in the ballroom dropped, not literally but everyone felt it, even humans. Valerius's voice was quiet and somehow that made it worse. "Speak again," he said, "but choose your next words as if they are your last luxury." The room froze. Serafina's smile faltered, just for half a second, then she recovered because Serafina was brave when she believed she had power. "I only mean," she said, "Elara is invisible, she always has been, the attention makes her uncomfortable." Elara felt something inside her break, not loudly, not dramatically, just a small crack. Because the word invisible had been used against her for so long that it became part of her skin. Valerius looked at Elara then, not at Serafina, at Elara. "Does she speak truth?" he asked Elara softly. "Are you invisible?" Elara's throat tightened, she wanted to lie, she wanted to say yes so the room would stop watching. But the crack inside her widened into something else. She whispered, "I was made invisible." Valerius's eyes sharpened, like someone had just handed him permission to be cruel. He turned to Serafina. "You call her invisible," Valerius said, "yet you cannot stop staring at her now." A ripple ran through the crowd. Serafina's cheeks flushed. "Your Majesty, please, I'm only trying to protect you from embarrassment." Valerius's voice stayed calm. "Embarrassment is not the girl's problem," he said. "It is yours?" Serafina's eyes flashed. "You don't understand our family," she snapped, then caught herself. "I mean?" Valerius stepped toward the edge of the dance floor, just one step, but it was enough to make Serafina unconsciously step back. Valerius looked at her the way a storm looks at a paper house. "I understand hierarchy," he said. "I understand cruelty disguised as love. I understand what happens when a woman like you believes beauty is the same thing as value." The room held its breath. Then Valerius said the line that would become gossip by morning. "You told her no one would notice her," Valerius murmured. "Now watch what happens when a king disagrees." A soft sound came from somewhere behind Serafina, a laugh, a snicker that quickly became another. Serafina's face turned sharp, her perfect mask cracking. Elara's hands shook, but Valerius returned to her, took her hand again, and led her back into the waltz as if Serafina was nothing but background noise. Elara's lungs burned. "This is going to make her hurt me later," Elara whispered. Valerius's gaze stayed forward, but his voice was for her alone. "If she tries," he said, "I will hear it." Elara blinked. "How?" Valerius's mouth curved faintly. "Kings hear screams even when they happen behind closed doors." The music rose again, stronger now, and the crowd began to react. Not with kindness. With fascination. With fear. With the hungry excitement of people who loved watching someone else's life explode. Elara spun and for one breath the ballroom blurred, crystal, silk, masks, smiles. Then she saw something that made her stomach twist. Her mother stood near the champagne table, eyes wide with horror, not because Elara was being humiliated, but because Elara was being seen. Her father's face was pale, as if he was imagining what this scandal would do to their reputation. Serafina glided toward them with tears suddenly appearing in her eyes like magic. She was already shifting into a new role, the victim. Elara's fingers tightened on Valerius's hand. Valerius noticed, of course he noticed. "What do you see?" he asked softly. Elara's voice broke. They're not worried for me, she whispered. They're worried about themselves. Valerius's jaw tightened just a little. Then tonight we'll teach them a better way to worry. The waltz continued and something strange happened. Elara stopped thinking about her feet, she stopped thinking about the faces. She listened to the music. She listened to the steady count of Valerius's steps. She let herself breathe. And for the first time she felt like her body was allowed to exist without apology. Her head lifted. Her shoulders loosened. Her eyes stopped darting like a frightened animal. Valerius watched the change and his gaze hardened, like he was seeing proof of something he suspected. Elara whispered, "Why did you choose me?" Valerius didn't answer right away. He guided her through a slow turn, his grip steady, his voice quiet. "Because you were the only honest thing in a room full of performances," he said. Elara's heart clenched. "I didn't do anything." "You did," Valerius replied. "You laughed when you weren't allowed to. That kind of bravery is rare." Elara swallowed. "That's not bravery." Valerius's eyes flicked to her face. "It is," he said. "Bravery doesn't always roar, sometimes it simply refuses to disappear." Elara didn't know what to do with that sentence. It felt too big for her small life. Then the ballroom lights flickered. "What? Twice?" The orchestra faltered. A low, uneasy murmur moved through the crowd. Someone near the wall whispered, "Not again." Elara's pulse spiked. "What's happening?" Valerius's hand tightened at her waist, not in panic, in readiness. His eyes went colder, sharper, more ancient. "Stay close," he said. The lights flickered harder, then came the sound, not loud but wrong, a deep hum like a machine swallowing air. The chandeliers above them trembled, crystals clinking like teeth. Elara's breath caught. "Is that?" Then the entire ballroom went black. Not dim, not moody, black. A scream sliced through the darkness, then another. Glasses shattered. Feet scrambled. Someone crashed into a table. Elara's body froze, old fear rising. She couldn't see anything, she couldn't see her hands, she couldn't see Valerius. But she felt him. A cold shield at her side. A presence that made the panic hesitate. Valerius's voice came low, dangerously calm. "Do not move." Elara whispered, "I can't see." "You don't need sight," Valerius said. "You need stillness." Then another sound cut through the chaos, a sharp metallic click, followed by a whispering rush. Elara's archive-trained mind recognized it before her heart did. A crossbow. A bolt being released. Elara didn't think, she didn't plan. She simply reacted. A small child stumbled near her, crying, separated from a guardian, tiny hands reaching blindly in the dark. Elara moved without permission from fear. She dropped down, grabbed the child's shoulders gently, pulled him close to her body, and turned so her back faced the direction of the bolt sound. At the same moment, Valerius moved, faster than human thought. There was a soft thud, then a hiss like something burning. Valerius growled, a sound so low it vibrated the floor. Elara's breath shook as she clutched the child. "It's okay," she whispered to him. "Stay quiet, I'm here." The child sobbed, "I can't find my aunt." Elara pressed her cheek to his hair. "We will," she promised. "I won't leave you." And in the darkness, Valerius turned his head toward Elara. Even though she couldn't see his eyes, she felt his attention like a beam. He spoke, voice quieter now, almost shocked. "You shielded him." Elara swallowed. "He's just a kid." Valerius said something that made the air around them shift. "No," he murmured. "He is my blood." Elara's body went still. "The child?" she whispered. "He's yours?" Valerius didn't answer in words, he didn't need to. The truth sat there in the dark, heavy and dangerous. Then Valerius's hand covered Elara's shoulder for a brief second. A touch that wasn't romantic, it was grateful, protective, raw. The lights flickered again, weakly returning in pulses, revealing chaos. Guests scattered, guards rushed in, and near the far balcony Elara saw it, a masked figure slipping behind a curtain. Valerius followed her gaze instantly, like a predator catching movement. He handed the child into Elara's arms more firmly. "Hold him," he ordered. "Do not let anyone take him from you." Elara's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, I?" Valerius's gaze cut into her. "You can," he said. "You already proved it." Then Valerius vanished into the crowd, moving with supernatural speed, a black shadow cutting through panic. Elara stood there with the child in her arms, heart racing, and something deep inside her realized a terrifying new truth. This wasn't just a gala. This was a battlefield. And she had just stepped into the center of the king's most guarded secret. Across the room, Serafina screamed Elara's name like it was an accusation. "Elara," she cried, Where are you? What have you done? Elara looked down at the child's frightened face and she understood something else too. Her sister wasn't scared for Elara. Her sister was scared of what Elara now held. Because in Elara's arms was not just a child. It was leverage. It was truth. It was a reason for a king to burn the world if anyone harmed her. When the lights finally stabilized, the ballroom no longer looked like a place for celebration. Crystal chandeliers flickered like tired stars, champagne soaked the marble floor, masks lay abandoned like shed skins. Elara still held the child. His small fingers clutched the fabric of her dress as if letting go would make the world disappear again. Guards poured in from every entrance, vampire sentinels first, then human security behind them. Their movements were fast, disciplined, lethal. The guests whispered in frightened clusters. Some stared at Elara openly now, not with curiosity, but with something closer to awe. Because the king's son was in her arms. Valerius returned without announcement, appearing beside her like he had always been there. His suit was untouched, but his eyes burned darker, colder, more ancient than before. "It's done," he said simply. Elara didn't ask what that meant. She didn't want to know how many lives might have ended in the shadows. She just whispered, "He's shaking." Valerius reached out, not to take the child, but to steady him. His touch softened instantly, the monster disappearing beneath the father. "My apologies," Valerius murmured to the boy. "You were not meant to see fear tonight." The child sniffed. "She said it would be okay," he said quietly, nodding at Elara. Valerius looked at Elara, then really looked, not as a curiosity, not as an accident, as a decision. "Take her," Valerius ordered the nearest guard, "and the child." Elara's heart jumped. "Where?" "To safety," Valerius replied. "For all of you." Serafina pushed forward through the crowd, eyes blazing, mascara smudged from tears that may or may not have been real. "What is she doing with your son?" Serafina demanded loudly. "This is absurd. She has no right." Valerius turned slowly. Every conversation stopped. "You will lower your voice," he said calmly, "when addressing my household." Serafina flinched just barely. "Your Majesty, I was only concerned. My sister is unstable. She's always been dramatic. She seeks attention." Elara felt the old instinct surge, the need to shrink, to apologize for existing. But the child tightened his grip on her dress. And something inside Elara refused to step back. "She's lying," the boy said suddenly, voice small but clear. "She was mean." A collective breath sucked in around them. Serafina laughed too quickly. "Children imagine things." Valerius's gaze sharpened. "Mine do not." Elara's parents rushed forward, faces pale, hands shaking. "This is all a misunderstanding," Elara's mother said quickly. "Elara didn't mean to interfere. She's always been sensitive." Valerius looked at them with polite interest, the way a scholar studies a flawed manuscript. "You raised her," he said, "yet she shielded my son without hesitation, and you did not notice she was missing from your home." Her father opened his mouth, then closed it. Valerius turned away, done with them. "Escort them out," he ordered. "They are not guests anymore." Gasps echoed as guards stepped forward. Serafina protested loudly now, screaming Elara's name like a curse. "You think this makes you special," she shouted. "You think he chose you. You're still nothing, Elara. You always will be." Elara didn't answer. Because Valerius placed a hand lightly at her back and guided her away, toward a private corridor hidden behind velvet curtains. For the first time, Elara didn't look back. The private wing of the hotel was silent, insulated from chaos by thick walls and ancient wards etched into the stone. The air felt cooler, calmer, safer. A healer arrived to check the child, murmuring reassurances. Valerius watched Elara closely while this happened. His eyes missed nothing, the tremor in her hands, the way she kept one arm protectively around the boy even when others approached. "You did not hesitate," Valerius said quietly. Elara shrugged weakly. "I didn't think." "That," Valerius replied, "is why it mattered." The healer finished and nodded. "He's unharmed, just frightened." Valerius exhaled slowly, tension easing from his shoulders. He turned to Elara. "You saved my son." Elara's voice shook. "Anyone would have." Valerius's eyes darkened. "No," he said. "Most would have screamed." A knock came at the door, sharp and urgent. Rowan stepped inside, breathless, eyes wide, clutching a worn leather journal like it was a holy relic. "Elara," he gasped. "I saw the news alerts. I knew it had to be here." Valerius stiffened instantly. "Who is this?" "My friend," Elara said quickly, "from the archive." Rowan bowed awkwardly. "Your Majesty." Valerius's gaze flicked to the journal. "That object," he said slowly. "Where did you get it?" Rowan swallowed, from a donation box tied to the Nightborn estate. The room went colder. Valerius stepped forward, eyes locked on the book. That journal was sealed, he said. It vanished 2 centuries ago. Rowan looked at Elara, then back at Valerius. The handwriting matches your modern signature. Silence slammed into the room. Valerius took the journal carefully, like it might bite. He opened it to a marked page, his eyes scanned the script, and something unreadable crossed his face. This is High Nocturne, Valerius said quietly, an ancient vampire language. Elara frowned. I know. Everyone turned to her. I can read it, Elara said softly. I always could. Rowan stared at her. You never told me that. Elara's hands twisted together. I thought it was useless. Valerius's voice was very calm now. Read? Elara hesitated, fear rising. I'm not important enough for prophecies. Valerius looked at her steadily. You already proved that wrong. Elara took a breath and read aloud. The words flowed out of her naturally, like a song she'd always known but never sung. The one unseen by blood shall see the truth. The one unloved by kin shall guard the crown. Through mercy the throne shall endure. Valerius closed his eyes just for a second. When he opened them, something had changed. My grandmother used to sing something like that, Elara whispered. She said it was a lullaby. Valerius looked at her with quiet intensity. It was not a lullaby. He lowered himself to one knee, not in submission but in acknowledgement. Do you understand what this means? He asked. Elara's breath caught. No. It means, Valerius said, that you were never meant to be invisible. Before Elara could respond, the door burst open. Seraphina stormed in, eyes wild, hair disheveled, flanked by a pale vampire lord with a cruel smile. You think you've won, Seraphina hissed, but I found someone who understands power. Valerius rose slowly, placing himself between Elara and them. You brought an enemy into my private wing, Valerius said coldly. Seraphina laughed, desperate and sharp. You chose wrong, your majesty. Valerius didn't look at her, he looked at Elara, and spoke the truth she had waited her whole life to hear. She is not the wrong choice, he said. She is the reason the crown still stands. Seraphina screamed in rage as guards seized her, the rival lord retreating too late, his fate already sealed by ancient law. Elara stood shaking, heart racing. Valerius turned back to her, voice softer now. The world will test you, he said. It will try to break what it once ignored. Elara lifted her chin just a little, then it will fail. Valerius watched her, something like pride flickering behind his controlled expression. They brought her to the vampire court at dawn. Not in chains, not in silk, but in silence. Elara stood between 2 Nightborn guards as black iron gates opened into a chamber older than cities. The vampire court was not beautiful in the way humans imagine palaces. It was severe, carved from obsidian stone and ancient bone, its ceiling lost in shadow. Rows of nobles sat in ascending tiers, pale faces framed by velvet and steel, eyes glowing faintly with hunger, curiosity, and judgment. This was a place where humans were usually decorations. Or warnings. Elara's heart pounded, but she walked forward anyway, remembering the child's small arms around her neck, remembering Valerius's voice when he said she could. Valerius entered last. The moment he stepped onto the black stone floor, the court rose not out of respect, but instinct. Power answered power. Be seated, Valerius commanded. They obeyed. Elara stood beside him, aware of every whisper, every stare, every unspoken question. Why is she here? Why is the king standing with her? Why does he look like he would burn the world for someone so small? A voice echoed from the upper tier, smooth and sharp. You bring a human into sacred judgment, your majesty? Valerius looked up calmly. I bring truth. A murmur spread. Another elder leaned forward, eyes glowing red. She is weak. Elara flinched just slightly. Valerius felt it, his jaw tightened. She shielded my son from an assassin, he said evenly. Tell me again what weakness looks like. The court went quiet. Then laughter rang out, thin and cruel. Seraphina stepped forward from the side chamber, dressed in mourning black she had chosen too carefully. Her eyes were red, her face pale, every inch of her designed to look wronged. I warned you, Seraphina cried, voice breaking on cue. She manipulates everyone, she always has. Elara felt the old shame crawl up her spine. But she did not lower her head. Valerius turned slowly. You were escorted from my presence. Seraphina pointed at Elara. She stole your attention, your favor, your child? Gasps echoed through the court. Valerius's voice dropped, dangerous and controlled. She saved my child. Serafina laughed hysterically, because she wanted power. Elara finally spoke, her voice quiet but steady. I didn't know who he was. The court shifted. I didn't know he mattered, Elara continued, hands clenched at her sides. I only knew he was afraid. That sentence moved through the chamber like a blade. One elder leaned forward, studying her closely. You speak without fear. Elara swallowed, then nodded. I am afraid, she admitted, but I'm done letting it make me small. A ripple of surprise spread. Valerius looked at her then, not as a king, but as a man witnessing something rare. Rowan was brought forward next, carrying the ancient journal. His hands shook, but his voice did not. This book, Rowan said, contains laws written before this court existed. The elders stiffened. Elara stepped forward when Valerius nodded, and read aloud, her voice growing stronger with each word. The crown does not choose by blood alone, nor by beauty, nor by fear. It chooses by mercy. And mercy must be protected. The chamber trembled, not magically but socially. An elder hissed, this is manipulation. Valerius turned sharply, this is law. Serafina screamed, she's lying. Valerius raised one hand and the sound died instantly. You humiliated her, Valerius said coldly. You diminished her, you called her invisible. Serafina scoffed, she is invisible. Valerius's eyes burned. Then explain why the court is watching her instead of you. Silence. The elder who first spoke finally said, what justice do you seek? Elara froze, this was the moment that mattered. Valerius looked at her, not guiding, not commanding, just waiting. Elara took a breath. I don't want her hurt, she said softly. Gasps erupted. I don't want her punished because I was, Elara continued. I want her to stop. Serafina laughed bitterly. You think mercy makes you powerful. Elara met her eyes. No, she said, I know it does. Valerius stepped forward then, his voice final. Serafina Hartwell, he declared, you are stripped of access, protection and privilege within all Nightborn territories. Serafina screamed as guards seized her, her mask finally shattering. Valerius turned to the court. Let this be known, he said, cruelty is not strength, humiliation is not power, and anyone who mistakes kindness for weakness will answer to me. The court bowed, slowly, reluctantly but completely. Elara stood shaking, tears burning her eyes, not from fear this time but from release. Valerius turned to her and spoke quietly so only she could hear. You did not become powerful today, he said, you revealed it. Elara exhaled, her shoulders finally dropping. When everyone finally spoke her name. The city woke to rumors before the sun fully rose. By morning, every screen whispered the same question. Who is the girl standing beside the vampire king? Elara stood at the balcony of the Nightborn citadel, the sky painted in pale silver and blue. She had not slept. Her mind replayed every word spoken in the court, every stare, every moment her life shifted without asking permission. Behind her, the world waited. Valerius approached without sound. His presence no longer startled her. That alone felt impossible. They are afraid, Valerius said quietly, standing beside her. Elara nodded. So am I. That is acceptable, he replied. Fear reminds us we are alive. Below them, the city stirred, humans and vampires alike looking up at the citadel with curiosity, suspicion, hope. Elara wrapped her arms around herself. I don't belong to this world. Valerius turned to her fully. You belong wherever you choose to stand. Before she could answer, a guard rushed onto the balcony, urgency tight in his voice. Your Majesty, he said, there's been a breach. Valerius stiffened. Explain? Serafina Hartwell, the guard continued. She escaped transport. She has taken a human hostage, a researcher named Rowan. Elara's heart dropped. No? Valerius's eyes darkened, not with rage but with cold focus. Where? An abandoned cathedral in the lower district. Elara didn't think. She stepped forward. She did this because of me. Valerius met her gaze. She did this because she believes cruelty is her only weapon. I have to go, Elara said, voice firm despite the fear clawing at her chest. Valerius didn't refuse. He studied her, then nodded once. Then we go together. The cathedral smelled of dust and forgotten prayers. Moonlight cut through broken stained glass, painting fractured colors across the floor. Rowan was tied to a pillar, bruised but alive. His eyes widened in relief when he saw Elara. Serafina stepped from the shadows, her beauty cracked by desperation, eyes wild. You took everything from me, she hissed. He was supposed to choose me. Elara took a slow breath. You never wanted him, she said softly. You wanted to be seen? Serafina laughed, shaking. And now everyone sees you. Valerius remained still, a silent threat behind Elara. Serafina pressed a blade closer to Rowan's throat. Give it up, she demanded. The favor, the crown, walk away? Elara's voice did not shake. I don't want a crown. Serafina faltered. Liar? I want people safe, Elara continued, including you. Serafina screamed. You don't get to forgive me. Elara stepped closer, hands open. I'm not forgiving you, she said gently. I'm refusing to become you. In that moment, Serafina hesitated. And hesitation is fatal when standing near a king. Valerius moved, faster than thought, disarming Serafina without spilling blood. The blade clattered to the stone floor. Guards surged in, securing Rowan. Serafina collapsed, sobbing, her power finally gone. Valerius spoke once, final and absolute, exile. The guards dragged Serafina away, her screams fading into echoes. Elara rushed to Rowan, cutting his bindings. I'm so sorry. Rowan shook his head, smiling weakly. You saved a king's son, I think you're allowed to be complicated. Later, under the open sky, Valerius stood before the gathered court and citizens, Elara at his side. This woman, Valerius said, voice carrying, was called invisible. A murmur rippled. She shielded my son, he continued. She spoke truth to power, she chose mercy when vengeance was offered. Valerius turned to Elara, holding out a simple silver circlet, not heavy, not ornate. I offer you partnership, he said, not ownership, not obedience. Elara looked at the circlet, then at the faces watching her. She shook her head slightly. Not yet, she said. I want to learn. Valerius smiled, truly smiled just a little. Then we will learn together. The crowd bowed not because they were told to, but because they understood. Elara lifted her face to the sky, heart steady. For the first time, her name moved through the world like something important.